Hello, my beautiful Christian widow sisters. Let's talk a little bit about love after loss. Let's talk about dating and engagement and remarriage and family blending as a Christian widow. This feels like the right topic to address this week because I will be celebrating my 3rd anniversary in my remarriage. And I want to approach this topic, although I have had experience in all of those things, more from a place of humility that I am still growing and learning, and that I desire the Holy Spirit to continue to lead me, and I need Him in my marriage and in my blending family, and I've needed Him all along the way. And so the Spirit will encourage you through this topic today, because this area of dating as a Christian widow and engagement, remarriage, and blending a family comes with a whole lot of emotions and fears and trials, and we need faith in the journey. I just want you to know that I personally understand the path and all of the things there are to navigate, and that you're not alone. If you are wondering how to even know if you're ready and what that looks like to navigate this journey, wondering if it's even possible for you, or you just have a desire deep in your heart for remarriage one day, but you're not sure what that looks like, I'm glad you're here today. Let's dive in. You know what I have realized in having my marriage status change from being married to being a widow to being remarried is that it's the same journey of faith all the way through. These are the same lessons. It's the same process of walking it with the Lord in trust, even though it looks like different phases or different seasons. And that's really important because in widowhood and beyond, it's super easy to find ourselves in a place of fear instead of faith, and to act out of all of our self-protection and lie-based belief and mindsets of lack as we try to navigate this. And it only lands us in a place of more pain and more despair, and of not seeing the fruit of the Lord's faithfulness to us. Because when you've gone through such pain and struggles and loss, we fear more loss, more hurt and wounds to our heart. And so it's easy to self-protect and doubt. And it's really hard to navigate all of this a second time, because none of it is the same as the first time we did it. Typically, we're in an entirely new season of life. We may have children, and it just seems a lot more complicated and unknown trying to do this now a second time. We can hear a lot of whispers in our ear and to our soul, like, what if there's no good men out there? What if I'm too broken to be loved again? What if this is too messy? What godly man is going to want to come into all of this mess and brokenness, be there not only for me, but for my children? Maybe you've been through trauma and you know you have deep things that need to heal, and you're wondering if you're really lovable, if someone is going to abandon you again. And of course, the possibility that this too could end in another loss for us. They're very real fears. But sister, that isn't the voice of faith, and we don't need to operate from that foundation. In fact, there's no life and no peace from operating in that way, and I know because I've struggled with it myself. I want to talk about a way of faith, a redemptive path that brings God glory and magnifies Him in how we navigate these things. Because it is by faith and walking in faith that we trust the Lord and receive His best for us, and we cooperate with Him on that path. And it doesn't mean pretending like pain didn't happen. It doesn't mean that you need to clean yourself up or make things look a different way, deny your feelings, not have grief and lament. It means an honest and authentic relationship that we walk this with the Holy Spirit. It's a yielding of our heart and our story to the Lord, knowing that He sees us and He hears us, that He's happy to be with us where we are, and that He is the one who can do something about where we find ourselves and what our hearts desire for our future ahead. Faith is knowing that we have a good Father who cares about the desire of our heart, that the desire to love again or to be remarried isn't a sinful one, and that He cares about our hearts as we are still currently His bride. And sister, faith is also peace. I believe that peace is the language of the Holy Spirit. And so as we navigate this journey with the Holy Spirit and are seeking His guidance and experiencing this through a reciprocal two-way relationship, I'm very, very big on that in all of the work I do with widows, that the Lord can lead and guide you as you are navigating this journey of finding, choosing, being with someone, making these decisions that impact you and your children and your whole life ahead. And that isn't about pressure or perfection, but our faith does show up as obedience. Choosing to walk through dating, remarriage, blending as a Christian widow through a way that displays God's character, that magnifies Him and glorifies Him, that honors the other person that we're wanting to love. So what does faith actually look like in these areas? Let's talk about a few tactical, practical things. And the first one is prayer. Ask God specifically for His best, because I think we can acknowledge that we don't always know what that is. But asking the Lord for His best helps our heart be in a position to trust Him with our futures, to be seeking His guidance and what that is, to be cooperating and being in a position of surrender and of belief that He is going to give you good things, that He's going to be faithful, that He is going to bless you. Be in prayer for every part of this season, your healing and your discernment, your future relationships, the heart of your kids, the specifics and details, all of it. It's something that I am currently doing a lot in the struggles that come with remarriage and family blending. It is still the same journey of faith. The second point is to expect this to be difficult. I don't want to dishearten or discourage you, but I do want to dispel the myth that I think we all can have. I believe that I had in my heart that somehow remarriage was going to make this better. That I had, not in a replacement way, because I know that one man can never replace another and shouldn't. They're completely irreplaceable. Andre's irreplaceable and Mike is not a replacement. So I know that those things aren't true, but I expected that since I had this life of peace and joy before I was widowed, and then once I was widowed, that maybe being remarried would somehow fix some of those things and bring me back to this different state that I had before I was the widowed, like it's tied to our marital status. And sister, I want to gently tell you that being remarried doesn't fix anything. That what you've been through is a grief that you will continue to journey through ahead. And now you're actually bringing someone else into it, which in a lot of ways can be redemptive and beautiful and helpful, and in a lot of ways can be harder and more challenging, and there can be other pains that you don't have right now that are associated with bringing more people, another husband, perhaps other children, into your grief. So it's not just going to get easier, and we should expect that. Remarriage and blending is people being brought together through loss, whether that was never being married, like is in my case with Mike, or divorce or a death that brings us to it. There's a commonality of loss for all of the adults and children and family members involved. And so there's going to need to be a lot of grace and expected struggle as everyone is figuring this out, so that when things get hard, you know that it's normal. I want to encourage you of that. The Lord is faithful to you in dating and remarriage and family blending the same way He was faithful to you as a widow, that He is still going to be the most personal, intimate one that walks you through any and all of the heartbreak that comes along. Third is to, by faith, walk in obedience in how we date and our engagement, remarriage, family blending, and life ahead. Again, not based in perfection and works as though we have to earn something, but because our faith, because that place of trust and surrender, because that place of wanting God to be glorified first and foremost, will result in our obedience the best we can as we walk this. And we say, Lord, thank you for your mercy. But we want Him to be glorified in and through our lives and our character. So this means walking it in a way that gives Him glory in our purity and in how we honor one another as man and woman. The way that we approach relationships, the way that we honor one another, that is not flippant, casual, and that we aren't giving ourselves away or taking from another person, coming as vacuums to the relationship to take instead of bringing and giving life. Our love for the Lord impacts every way we live as Christians, or at least I believe that it should. And so how we go about this by faith isn't going to look a lot like what you see in the world, and how they go about dating, having relationships, remarriage, blending, the ways that we can get very myopic and self-focused and doing things our way and being entitled to our rights, especially with everything that we've gone through and now finding somebody. There can be this tendency toward our way. But this is really a process of considering all of the hearts that are involved and doing it in a way that brings the Lord glory, because that will be what blesses you most. And the fourth is, again, that faith would lead and guide the whole process. Faith means allowing God to guide timing and decisions and boundaries, that we're not rushing out of loneliness or out of fear, but moving forward prayerfully with discernment in the decisions that give us peace. As I reflect on these last 3 years of being remarried now and in the future ahead, it is still all based in surrender and trust to the one who has known me from the beginning, who knows my life and my story and has been faithful to me and will be. There's been some really challenging things in remarriage and in blending families. And honestly, we don't talk about it much. It can be a really difficult area because a lot of the world feels like it's a problem solved. They've seen heartbreak and they've seen hardship for our hearts and for our kids. And so now you meet someone and your families come together and it kind of is a resolution. And we think so as well in ways. And so when there's difficult struggles going on, it can be hard to know where and how to even share about those things. But there are safe places, and we need other Christian widow sisters to be able to go to in these areas to continue to encourage one another to fight the good fight, finish the race, keep the faith. Even now, blending a family of 7 calls for surrender and trust. Even more so. And you know what? There is so much goodness here too that I have to refocus myself on amidst the struggles, just like you do. Sister, your story didn't end with loss. And when you walk in faith, you open the door for all the good things that God desires to keep writing in the chapters ahead. God's grace to you. Thanks for being here.